Hi, Leah.
Hey, Judy.
Welcome to the Anatomy of Ancestral Alchemy. I am Judy Hu, licensed mental health counselor, trauma therapist, and boundary coach.
And I am Leah Constance, a licensed mental health counselor and expressive arts therapist.
We started this podcast to talk a little bit about ancestral alchemy and how we use it in our work. And Leah and I sat down and figured out our last one was in February. And so the video today is around natural endings. So I like to always give a context of where we're headed. And so this one is around telling the story of where we're at right now and how we got here, zooming out for the listener and the viewer, for you to listen to see if anything resonates for you. Because as we share, the intention has always been for you to learn more about you and also to take some of the tools that we teach for your own life and how you can heal the ancestral burdens that you might have inherited from generations past that you didn't realize. And so around February time was the vacation week for my kids. And so what happened was I took a break. And for me, when I take breaks, I start to actually get a sense of how my body's really doing versus the go-go that I'm constantly in. And what I realized is I am really burnt out with the state of the world and the nonstop fires that are happening, literally and figuratively. I have noticed my capacity for creativity and for this podcast has decreased tremendously. And I've really had to limit myself to basic needs for my own body and also for my kids and the clients that I serve. And the other thing is, when I am super dysregulated, I often look for teachers for more wisdom. And so I invite you, if you're feeling burned out or depleted in some way, open yourself up for other information, not the rabbit hole. Okay, just a reminder. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with me when I'm feeling this way. It's just data of something has to change. And so I'm just taking that opportunity to do that. Do you want to share a little bit about your journey, Leah?
Yeah, so similarly, for me, to go back to a word you used, burnout, the burnouts happened in my body. So it's a lot of layers to this, but essentially, I've been diagnosed with a chronic condition that causes pain and irritation, a nervous system condition. And I also took a break around the time that Judy took hers in February as I was navigating some dynamics around this diagnosis and what that meant for my life and kind of the initial acute grief of, wow, this is like actually pretty life-changing when I sit with it. And that doesn't necessarily need to be a negative thing, but it's an awareness of something has to shift to your comment. So I don't quite know what that looks like yet. I think I'm still in this phase of something bigger needs to shift, but I'm not quite sure what that is. But for now, what I know is that I've needed to slow down and I've really needed to pay attention to my body. And with different med trials I've been on, I've had side effects and
Mm.
extra tiredness. And then on top of that, I learned that I have very low iron, which probably is not helping. And so I'm basically taking the time to get all of my body shit together. That's the way I've been
Yes.
looking at this. So that's where I'm at in my life. And I think, as many of you can relate, it's hard to care for yourself and care for other people in your life at the same time and keep a job going and all the other life dynamics that are just inherently a part of our lives. So, yeah, I've been grateful to be in this space with Judy and with you all, and it's been really supportive. And I also feel like some grief around this ending for now, I think is more the way we're looking at it, but we can talk more about that in a bit.
Can we sit with that grief for a second?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Where are you feeling it in your body?
I think for me, I really feel it. I really feel it in my heart and in my throat. I think those are the two main places.
Mhm.
Yeah, and for me, it's just like a sadness of I think we had such a cool idea, and I was so appreciative that you approached me and could see like the wisdom that I carry. And I know initially talking about like my Aquarian ways oftentimes are very behind the scenes. Like tend to support the people that are much more like front and center. And so for me, this was like, oh, it was like a nice, gentle challenge of not only are people going to hear my voice, this is actually a visual podcast too. So I think it has been like this helpful challenge for me. Yeah. Yeah. And we've had a lot of fun and it's been really enjoyable and also I think really helpful at some really tough points in our
Mhm.
history.
Mhm.
So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I'm feeling grief as well. It's like heart, solar plexus, and the throat. So this whole like channel here. I was excited that you said yes to my idea because I have lots of ideas that I start and I don't finish. So there's grief and a little bit of, it's not shame.
Mm.
It's like this, not remorse either. Interesting. I think there's curiosity. What I've appreciated about this was a stretch for me too. Like
Mm.
I had to be coaxed into getting on social media for multiple years by an advisor an astrologer that I had been seeing for a long time. And he was absolutely right that it opened up something that I didn't realize was in me. And starting such a visual podcast in the sense of, yeah, we're sharing lots of intimate things on recording. And I'm remembering some of them that we had to take, or we chose to take down because of safety concerns around what was happening locally and nationally and globally. And so I'm sitting with the ride of, I remember when it was so fun and we'd come in bubbling with ideas. And I remember when I was dealing with physical pain around opening myself up to love. And I remember when I was completely triggered by ice. This like up and down thing that happened. And we documented it here with you all to witness and felt very vulnerable and also very authentic. So, zooming out for a second, right? We share our stories, not so much for you to get to know us, although that's part of it. It's an opportunity to model how you get to know yourselves and your nervous systems and what your body's actually trying to communicate. And so, in case there's something that you're wondering if you want to do, right, and you might be scared, my suggestion is to go for it. Try a little thing and then see, right? But just take that one step to just get a little bit of information on if this is something you want to do. Nothing is nothing is proof of your value or not value. It's an opportunity for you to get to know yourself and to create something of what you want to do with your time and your presence here. Looking back, I have no regrets that we started this. I learned quite a bit, and I'm really grateful for that time. It also worked my muscle of just being courageous to speak truth to power. And also, it's holding me accountable to be authentic, as well as model what healthy boundaries looks like. I think I'll speak for myself. There are times that I'll stay in something longer than I should because of a sense of obligation or duty or fear of making the wrong mistake. But this decision to close this chapter of our podcast right now, while hard, feels like timely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so another thing that's coming up is in case any of you are exhausted, it makes total sense. And I encourage you to consider using your body differently. So as I close this for me in this way, I'm actually opening up something else that's I'm hoping is going to feed me in a different way.
Yeah.
And this might be the time I share about constellation work. So I've shared it here before. Family Constellations is a practice that originated in Africa. The Zulu tribe taught this German missionary, Bert Hellinger, the practice, and he took it and brought it to the United States, learned marriage and family therapy, and then created this modality called Family Constellations. I share this whole story for context again, because that's part of my work with decolonizing is understanding where these lineages come from, because we need to know, right? So I went to a conference a few weeks ago and fell back in love with the process. And one of the experiences that I want to share with you is I did a piece of my work. So zooming out for a second, the work that I do with my clients and in my groups is all ancestral, right? We're able to track something current moment, like anxiety about making the wrong decision, connect it to childhood stuff, and then also connect it to the larger collective ancestral trauma that we inherit from family members in our past and collective trauma impact that we experience and hold in our nervous systems too. I have a lot of people on my caseload who don't stick with me on my caseload because they don't want to go that far, which makes total sense, right? They want something in the present moment. So I'm not for everybody. Mm. So the way that I see things is very big picture because in my mind, for me and the way that I work, if we can adapt and adjust and integrate what happened in the root, it will impact everything in the present and future. So that's my take. So I did a piece of work around my fear of fully embodying my truth and my mission here on the planet. And what happened was a constellation out of 130 participants, maybe like almost 100 people were in my constellation. And a constellation is like energies within a system, right? It could be people, it can be trauma, it can be certain things that impact how the system works, the energetic system. And so in my constellation, I had Chairman Mao, I had the millions of people who died from starvation due to his decision on the Cultural Revolution and how to proceed. I had a group of women who represented the girls who were harmed through infanticide or the rape of Nanjing, all of those things that happened due to patriarchy. I had indigenous people whose land was taken from parts of China. I had my own family of origin things that happened. It was all of these things tied by a thread, right? Of the misuse of power. And it was so big that I realized I need to learn this a little bit more. So I can bring it not only to my clients, but to me first and foremost, so I can integrate the information and work a little differently. So that's where I'm going to be going, is I'm going to be diving into this year-long training and sharing the information as I get it. But I'm very excited because sometimes a teacher, I'm never really a teacher, needs to become the student. And for some of you who followed us from the beginning, know I trained Leah when she was an intern for her mental health training or for licensure training. And then I came to her recently for her to serve me in some medicinal work. So everything's coming full circle. So if you think that your life is supposed to look a certain way, zoom out and allow different things to come in and be open to opportunities. Yeah.
I'm excited for you.
I'm excited and scared.
Do you want to speak at all to that or process any of that?
I think there's natural fear in change.
Yeah.
It activates these adaptive parts in me that want things to stay the same, even though the way that things are currently are making me miserable. It took me a really long time to leave my marriage because it was the devil I knew. He was not the devil. Yeah. I love him. We have great kids together. We closed that chapter of our lives. But what I'm trying to say is when change comes, the natural tendency is to fear it. But that means the caterpillar never turns into a butterfly. or trees never bear fruit if they don't change and grow. Yeah, I'm nervous and excited.
Yeah. I appreciate the fear is inherent to change. I think to some degree that I resonate with that from the physical place too. Of, what does this mean for the rest of my life? And even though it's not driving the bus, it's definitely like it's present. Yeah. 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 And yeah.
All I can think of, Leah, may I wonder, is you have a book in you. I mean, you already wrote one.
Yeah.
Think of another one that's been brewing.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I know. Been thinking that too. I thought it was very interesting. One of the very first thoughts I had when all of this was becoming more clear in December when I met with the neurologist initially was like, oh, it's interesting that like part of this condition, talking affects it. So like I notice later in the day I'll have more pain because I've been talking. And it's interesting just thinking about, okay, maybe the universe is like, yep, you're gonna shut your mouth and type a lot. It is interesting to think about that. And yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been on my mind. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it certainly doesn't mean that like the wisdom can't still go out into the world somehow, right? Yeah, so there'll be a lot more to uncover. And yeah, I think also like they're just learning all the layers, right? It's like I firmly believe in holistic health. And what's so interesting is, excuse me, what's so interesting about that is like when I initially, before I was really in the more esoteric healing arts, when I'd hear the word like alternative or when I'd hear the word holistic, I really thought it meant like anything other than Western medicine. But actually, it's the integration of all of it. And yeah, it's more, yeah, exactly. So it's been really interesting to look at the layers of here's what I've gotten from Western medicine so far. Here's what I've gotten from energy work. Here's what I've gotten from family constellations work. Here's what I've received from acupuncture. And so it does feel like I am like actually a very living embodiment of holistic support right now. So it does feel like there's, yeah, potentially more that I can write about around that too. Yeah. Yeah. They all have their places.
Right. And also just a gentle reminder to myself and everyone,
Mhm.
we don't need to produce anything to be of value.
Yeah, true.
So I just want to just make sure there's not this pressure of if I'm not producing, then I don't have value or I'm not important. That's nothing be further from the truth of that.
Yeah.
The conditioning runs really deep.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think anytime you're dealing with a chronic condition, it's I definitely am noticing that's running much more high in me lately as well. So even have more of a medication hangover in the morning that I feel, and I'm like, oh my God, how come I can't get myself out of bed as much and or as easily, or it's just like those types of things that are still like a way of doing and producing, even if you're not actively working. And so it has definitely created a whole other layer of needing to unpack some of that for myself. Yeah. 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 So I'm sure any of you out there that have chronic pain conditions or chronic conditions in general can relate on some level.
Same. Yeah, I just think about 90 some percent of illnesses are connected to stress. And just going back and connecting the piece around holistic medicine or alternative medicine is when we look at little pieces like anemia and right, all these things. I had dealt with anemia, and when I explored it using the different modalities that I'm aware of, I discovered that it was connected to unprocessed ancestral trauma around war and this resistance to living. So for me, this is not medical advice. The red blood cells in my life, in my body, in my in my body created a sense of oxygen and energy and life force, right? So I had very low anemia. It was so low that I would go to the grocery store, I'd drive home, take a nap in the driveway, wake up from the nap, and then bring my groceries into the house. That's how bad it was. Okay. When I understood what was happening, I was able to integrate that dissolution or the integration of that trauma into my nervous system, the understanding, oh, there's part of me that doesn't want to fully live because of what happened historically. It was so painful. Okay. So then I was able to integrate that. I got the medical and the iron infusion, which gave me so much relief. And I integrated the understanding of there's part of me that resists fully living because there's fear that it's going to be as painful as it was back then.
Yeah.
And so I just want to invite folks to just continue staying open. If you have a chronic condition, don't berate yourself about it. It's exactly what we do to our bodies that causes so much stress and then an eventual illness is because we keep holding it without metabolizing it and then letting it go.
Yeah.
Okay. So with the chronic stress that we see, we're just amplifying it right now with what's happening collectively. When we carry it silently and we carry it with either shame or self-blame or blame of other people, the wrong bodies, we just keep perpetuating the system of oppression that started it. So my suggestion is, if you're dealing with a chronic illness, be gentle with yourself, empathetic, compassionate, right? Do the things that you need to do to take care of this very precious body while also looking for breadcrumbs to see what the body's asking for resolution around.
Yeah, one of the ways that I feel back to your forget exactly what you said, but it made me think of functional medicine, the root. You were talking about the root and how important it is to go back to the root for healing. And when I think about functional medicine often tries to look for the root where typically Western medicine in this society it's a lot of band-aids.
Yes.
Depending on the condition, but a lot of times it's here's a pill to mask or support whatever it is, but we're not actually going to look at the root. And what I appreciate about all of this is I think one of the things I found is Western medicine has a place in helping give your system some levity while you still look for the root. That's part of what I've been feeling. And I feel like that speaks to what you just said around continuing to look for the breadcrumbs. It's can we do both? Can we have curiosity about both? Like the thing that helps us get through the day while also really trying to go searching for some things around the root cause. And for some people, I'm a firm believer everyone has their life path. It's possible some people in life won't ever be able to find the root cause of everything that they've been dealing with. I think in some ways it'd be almost near impossible for everyone to have the same outcome. But I think it continues to give us information that can support us, whether we get to the root of everything or not. I guess my point with that is it's less of do I get an A+ and a check mark, and more of do I just keep evolving and growing and learning? Yeah.
And to piggyback on that, just a gentle reminder too, you are not your illness. You're also not your trauma. You're also not your productivity.
Yeah.
You're much, much bigger than that. So don't forget that.
Yeah. Anything else before we talk about future? You already mentioned a little bit about your future with the training.
I think also I'm going to be offering more workshops because managing my chronic PTSD is giving me lots of information on skills that are helpful for myself and also sharing it with more people. So I share it in my groups that I run, but I wanted to offer it more for other folks too. So I'll be sharing more workshops, one of which is coming up soon called, I forget, it's about
Embodied.
I know I should know this, right?
I just saw it too. This is part of the thing that was the brain fog.
Same. So it's embodied.
Staying embodied in that.
Yes. Exactly. Staying embodied while the world burns.
While the
Basically.
world.
See,
Yeah.
do you see the intentional, well, not intentional, just the unconscious like dissociation of, do I really want to present that? Yes, I do. It's needed. So I think that's going to be, I'll be doing more of that just to ease a little bit so I can reach more people and not have to work as much. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And is that going to be online?
Yeah, it's going to be online.
Okay. And what day and time?
Saturday, May 2nd, 12 to 2 Eastern time. More information's coming. It's so interesting. I don't know about you, but for chronic illness or chronic mental health stuff, I have a hard time committing because I don't know what my energy level is going to be like. Right? Anyone like that out there? Right? Or I don't feel ready yet.
Yep.
And so part of what I've had to tell my adaptive teenager and wounded child internally, these parts of me that kind of run the show when I am not resourced enough in my functional adult or grounded in my sense of self, is they worry that I'm going to do it poorly, that I'm not ready yet, or what if I don't have the energy? And when I'm regulated, I can tell them, and I'm saying this to you too, you can always change your mind.
Yes.
But my intention is to share what I am learning so that other people can stay embodied while the world is burning. And when the world is burning, just like when I see hitting rock bottom, is you're on solid ground and something beautiful can come out of that.
Yeah.
So it's hopeful what I'm trying to share. And I'm wanting to do it from a place of inspiration versus a place of trying to save anyone.
Yes.
Because no one needs to be saved right now. And there's nothing to fix, right? There is realignment that needs to happen, but it's much more gentle than punishment. So,
yeah, I appreciate that.
How about for you, Leah?
Speaking of writing, I have a friend and colleague that's starting an experience, a 12-month experience called 13 Realms. And I'm doing some astro herbalism journaling, or not journaling, writing for that. Feels like journaling in a fun way. There's actually a lot of journal prompts, and I think the door is closed for that sometime next week. Maybe we can put a link below if anyone's interested in checking it out. And I know that she's bringing in a lot of different facilitators. So it's not just her experience. She's the main creator, but she's
And her name?
Krista Beth Gold. Thank you. She's brought in a lot of people to support the process. So I've created some rituals around the moons, including some herbs to look at for each moon and connected with different themes. So for instance, like Taurus season being about pleasure. And similar to both of us, Beth really had this vision of the world feels like it's burning. And in a lot of ways, it's literally burning, which is terrifying. And so, like, how do we support each other through this time? So, very similar. And that was her, for sure, her like vision for supporting people through the year. So, that starts soon. And what else? I think otherwise, actively closing the doors that are always open to my practice, so to speak. So, not accepting new referrals, just doing my best to really slow down and continue to like figure out next steps for myself. That's really like the most present thing for me right now, and being open to like how something shifts for me. I'm really tuning into myself and my body every day. Yeah.
It's really beautiful to witness, Leah.
Thank you.
Coming from someone who chronically doesn't do that for oneself, to witness how much care you're taking of your body is a good reminder.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, have I done too much at once? And I think sometimes that's just the way my energy flows too, is I think just energetically, I hold this signature of I get really fixated on something and research and do the things. And it's just the way that I operate. And then, yeah, and then sometimes I'm like, is that a little too much too quick? But that's okay. We're learning.
Yeah. Data for next time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's really it on my end in terms of next steps. I know that we had thought about talking a little bit about like future vision for this work. We did start some interesting training together around like podcast growth and things like that. So I think we may still explore some of that in the future together. For me, I want to be really clear. I don't feel like this is the end.
Agreed.
But I do feel like it could be a while before we like circle back to this, so to speak.
Yeah. I have a fantasy that just popped into my mind. If and when we start back up, that we do interviews with people, and in those interviews, we explore their ancestry a little bit. So we can show you what we actually do with people who consent.
The sun is. Ooh, yeah.
I think they like the sun like that idea.
That was funny.
Or if you all have ideas of what you'd like to hear or see based on what you know about the work that we do, we're open to that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you take good care, especially now. We need each and every one of you to be grounded and to have healthy boundaries to protect yourself and each other as equally as important as everyone else, including the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you, Leah. Take good care.
Bye for now.